Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnikins as we continue our spotlight on the Brenner Farm just outside of Durand off of Highway 10. And thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin for supporting our spotlights on our area dairy farmers. And this morning, talk a little bit about the cows. Now, when you drive by the Brenner Farm, you may see some cattle in the field. They are out in pasture. And Tom, those are your heifers and dry cows out there?
Yeah, when you drive by on the road, if the cows are out on the green, it's dry cows and heifers going out to yeah, it's kind of a pasture. We feed them on a inside too, but when there's forage there, they go take it and come back in the barn and eat their other forage that's supplied to them.
And so why just them? Why don't you have the lactating cows out there?
Well, the lactating cows will go out of the barn. One thing about starting with a blank slate is you never know what you're going to get into. So when I first built the barn, the cows were going outside, and they were going out to an area that was kind of a low spot on the farm. There's not really a flat spot at our place, so there's slope everywhere. And it turned out, it used to be a heifer yard when my grandpa and my dad were farming this area that I let the cows out to, and it was wet in the wet seasons, and that's just the way it was. So it got to be pretty frustrating, if it was during the wet season, you dealing with cows walking through mud and some of the problems that can come with that. Well, it turned out a good friend of mine from high school is a good excavator, and when they did all the work for Quick Trip, all that fill came out to the farm because it was handy for Jared to do that. So you get lucky once in a while. And so I wound up getting a pile of fill from the Quick Trip because of Jared and Arvid and AJ, and we lifted that whole site up. And now everything is high and dry, and I built a feed bunk out there in a feed lane, and the cows can go outside and eat there, but pretty hard to see them from the highway.
Okay. And there's, now during the winter time, obviously, everybody's staying inside.
Yeah, it's cozy in that barn. If it's below zero, I need to shut the big fan off, the one that remains on during the winter. But if it's not below zero, I can keep a good amount of air moving through there. And when it gets really cold, I just have some sidewall fans that are smaller. Turn them on and off intermittently, and that's just to keep the air turning in the barn somewhat, but get the moisture out of the barn too.
Talking with Tom Brenner this morning with Brenner Farm, just outside of Durand, right off of Highway 10. Now, for your calves, do you have a separate area for the calves?
I would say that a calving facility or a calf barn would be the next thing that needs to happen for me. Right now, it's I keep calves in the barn for the first few days, and then they go down below to a part of a heifer shed, and it's an area that I need to work on. So a special particular place for the heifer calves is next on the list. Part of that is just the roller coaster of prices, and part of that was because when it got really tough in 17, 18, and 19, it turned out that it was just not in my cards to raise many heifers. So I was selling all my calves, and then I would buy back cows as needed. And that was just one of the things that comes with being new, being young, and a lack of equity. It was you figure out what you can and can't do, and it would have been better to keep all those animals, but sometimes you got to figure it out.
Talking with Tom Brenner this morning with Brenner Farm, again, as we spotlight our dairy farmers throughout the last week of the month with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. And so when you're caring for the cows, obviously for you, and especially, it doesn't matter what size dairy farm, but for you, everything out here that you're doing is for the cows, isn't it?
Yeah, everywhere you look, it comes back to a dairy cow when you're farming. So whether you're, thinking about where you're going with manure or seed choices or what's the next piece of equipment that you need? It all comes back to, does this do anything for the cows? And if it doesn't, well, the answer is you don't need it.
Coming up tomorrow, we're going to continue our conversation with Tom, and he mentioned it. There's really not a flat spot around here. And how does he farm that? How does he protect that soil? And we're going to talk with Tom a little bit about that as well here coming up tomorrow as we continue our spotlight on the Brenner family farm just outside of Durand. Thank you to Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin for supporting our spotlight all this week. You're listening to WRDN.